Calling the Antioch Police Oversight Commission to order at 6:30 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Taylor. Commissioner Mitchell,
Present.
Commissioner Alaquachi,
Present.
Commissioner Hayden, Commissioner Lacey-Oha, Commissioner Kennedy,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Williams,
Present.
Chairperson Taylor.
Present.
We have a quorum with Commissioners Hayden and Lacey-Oha absent at roll call.
Thank you. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Commissioner Williams, don't fall over at the beginning of the meeting. First item is our consent calendar. We can go item for item. Recommendation to approve the meeting minutes of May 5th, May 19th, June 2nd. Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Can we do a roll call vote?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell,
I vote in the affirmative.
Commissioner Alaquachi,
Affirmative.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Affirmative.
Vice Chairperson Williams,
Yes.
Chairperson Taylor.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously to approve the minutes.
Thank you. On to new business. We'll have our police chief's report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commission, and City staff. Wanted to give another update on our department's current staffing. As of today, the department is currently sworn, or have 90 sworn officers, 4 on long-term leave, 1 on administrative leave, 1 on long-term military leave. So that gives us 84 officers sworn from the chief down. We currently have 13 officers in the various stages in the field training program. So in the last 2 weeks, since I last reported, 3 have completed their field training program, are now solo officers out there on patrol. We currently have 6 recruits in 2 different police academies, and we still have a solid hiring pool that we're continuing to work from. We've been working with our HR department, and we have an open recruitment process in place right now for both police captain and police lieutenant. And we also are staffed with 8 CSOs and 12 dispatchers. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the commission for any questions.
Any questions? We'll start from this way.
How many of the CSOs are dedicated to the parking enforcement?
We currently have 2.
Okay. Just hearing a lot about lengthy turnarounds on requests for that.
Yeah, they've been working diligently, getting caught up with the C-Click fix. They have a staggering schedule, so one CSO works on Monday through Thursday, and the other one's Tuesday through Friday, so we still have 5-day coverage.
So in essence, it's 1 person per day?
Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's 2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You said that there's 2 dedicated to parking enforcement. What are the other 6 dedicated to?
We have CSOs that are dedicated to our property and evidence room, as well as they help supplement patrol and in our jail facility, doing all the transports and bookings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as the captain and the lieutenant recruitment, just want to confirm that that's an open recruitment, that we have both internal and external candidates that are going to be applying for?
That's correct. It's open for internal and external. And there's an outside consultant firm that'll be doing the process on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no questions. Is there any public comment?
I've received no public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 5, the discussion of our new ad hoc formations. It is being proposed that we form 3 new ad hocs. One on commission readiness, which is training-based, fiscal management, and then public trust and engagement. We've been discussing this for a few weeks. So is there a motion to go ahead and form the ad hocs?
So moved.
Is there a second?
There is a second.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, and just for the record, I've received no public comment or speaker cards.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yay.
Commissioner Alaquachi,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Williams, Chairperson Taylor.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously to form the commission, adopt the resolutions forming the committees.
Thank you. And then going on to discussion item 6, we can discuss, there are some additions that we all need to have for the actual ad hocs that we just formed, right? You guys adding yourselves on the ad hocs. And then also the descriptions that were submitted in our agenda. And what that looks like is, of course, we can have 3 or less on each ad hoc. And then I think based on the descriptions that were submitted, those members can go ahead and form a new description for our next meeting. That's kind of the best, plan. And of course, we as a body can discuss what that looks like here, but that way we all have simple agreements. So let's start with commission readiness, which is our training ad hoc. Is there commissioners interested?
I'd be happy to participate.
She can't do it by herself. Anyone else? That's still 3, so it works for both
Yeah.
of y'all. Okay.
I'll participate on that.
Okay, and so, yes, okay. So we'll have Commissioner Kennedy, Alaquachi, and Commissioner Mitchell for our commission readiness ad hoc. And then for that particular commission, so how it is reading now, basically, is that we will have a focus on our training, also a focus on the APD training, and then a focus particularly on the budget that is gifted to us, so that we know when we are looking for our own training, how to manage that. And we can work in tandem with the actual fiscal management ad hoc to make sure we stay aligned.
And just want to point out that the training budget is not under APD's budget. It's actually under city manager's budget, so
So we will be working with city manager,
you're welcome.
per usual.
We
Look, per
weren't able
usual.
to have that in both places after all?
Of course, of course. Next, we can move on to fiscal management. I definitely want to step forward for that one. Is there any other commissioners that want to step forward for our fiscal management? I was already on this ad hoc by myself. Yep.
I think y'all should do it.
That should have been, yeah. I don't know if I can, but we can definitely say let's assign Commissioner Haddon.
Yes.
And,
Yes, I was gonna say,
Okay.
I would like to appoint Commissioner Haddon to that, committee.
mhm.
Mm.
Anyone else interested in budget or fiscal management? Yeah, so either way, all of the descriptions are placeholders, so we will be writing our own descriptions, but essentially what we have a responsibility to do in our ordinance is to review the APD budget, which we started a few weeks back when they did the presentation, and then to make sure that the spending aligns with what we know as has been gifted to us in that budget. So we'll just be watching the budget and how that is managed. Great. And I was gonna say businessman. See, we needed you. All right, great, that's 3. And for public trust and engagement, I'm just gonna throw you out there because I know it's coming.
I would also be very
Great.
interested in that.
Public trust and engagement.
That's community engagement.
Community
Mhm.
engagement.
You go ahead, I bet we're gonna say the same thing.
We probably are. Yes, Commissioner
Oha.
A.C. Oha
Yes.
wanted to be on this committee, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that.
And I agree, she has mentioned several times that she would like to be a part of it. So yes, another thing I want to talk about as we go over the discussion, thank y'all, because that's full ad hoc, so that was great, is the responsibility. So as we go into our first ad hoc meetings, we can schedule our own times individually for those, but we form our descriptions and then the responsibilities. We, in the past, had not been creating SharePoints and tracking our own meeting minutes. That will now be a responsibility. When you do your report outs, we should be taking attendance at the meetings and reporting out who actually attended, and then, of course, whatever work was accomplished. And that should be robust each week so that we can be transparent with the community to share what we have actually been doing. That will be drafted. Mhm.
So, great to hear all of that. Are we going to set like a time frame for when we want that to come back? So in other words, we're all gonna be meeting, do we wanna say, oh, have something to report on July 7th or July whatever? I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense so that we're walking out of here tonight with a little bit of a plan. And then one other question that I have, particularly as it relates to public trust and engagement, is I know that this is not just going to be the work of the ad hoc, but it's going to be work with city manager, with the police chief, with the Department of Justice, getting a sense of how we want to integrate that. And I would think especially with the DOJ representative sooner rather than later to get some guidance on what makes the most sense in that arena.
That was a wide question. I'm gonna answer the first part.
I'm sorry.
Yes, very robust, the question. So in regards to how we should organize, I think that each ad hoc should kind of plan that themselves, right? Because I can't say like, you have to meet every week, right? That's for you all to determine with your own workloads. And so at each session, you'll see on the current agenda, we always have an ad hoc report out. So every time we have a meeting, there should be a report out. So I would at least say between that 2-week period to try to meet at least once, and that would be the goal. Any other discussion? Public comment?
None received.
Thank you. And we can move on, we don't have to vote on this one. No. So discussion item, agenda item 7, we are gonna have a much needed presentation from the Felton Institute. Thank y'all for coming.
Before the Filtered Institute comes up, I want to say thank you so much.
Yeah.
You guys have done this several times, but we are a new commission, and we want to applaud you on the work you've done. And yeah, anybody else want to add on to that? Okay.
I just want to make sure you just go ahead and vote so that we can adopt the
No, we do
resolution.
vote,
We
okay.
did
Oh.
vote on the resolutions. That was
Okay.
the agenda item prior.
Okay.
So we don't have to vote on
on
this 'cause
who's
it was
assigned.
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Alicia, please.
We have a slide? You didn't receive it? Oh.
All right. Okay. Oh, I have to. Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and City Manager, and Chief Acting. All right, my name is Alicia Wesley Clark, and I am the Program Director for Felton Institute's, the Community Response Team. So, wait a minute. I'm clicking this way. All right. Okay, so the Antioch Community Response Team began in February of 2023, providing 24-hour, 7-day-a-week alternative services to low-level 911 calls from Antioch community members. The team assists with crisis intervention and connects individuals to long-term services with community-based organizations and resources. Our team focuses on de-escalation, mitigation, and prevention of repeated non-life-threatening emergency situations. We work in partnership with the collaborative network of service providers in the city of Antioch to provide a safer response to behavioral health, quality of life, and low-threshold medical calls, and allows law enforcement personnel to focus their efforts on major emergencies and investigative efforts. All right. AQCRT is comprised of trained staff.
I think your slide went backwards, yeah.
Okay. What? Okay. You want to work it? Thank you, Chief. Ooh. All right, so the AQCRT team is comprised of trained staff who provide mental health support and conflict resolution. The team utilizes motivational interviewing and de-escalation techniques to prevent police contact, support with crisis safety planning to prevent reduced future crisis, provide service linkages to ongoing mental health and medical services. We aid in housing solutions for the unhoused community members, resource distribution, and more. AQCRT supports the community by engaging the community, fostering successful outcomes for those experiencing a mental health crisis. AQCRT empowers Antioch residents by supporting long-term prevention services and community conflict mediation. So our response process looks like this. Community members call 911. The dispatch team screens the calls, and then they dispatch those out to the AQCRT members for appropriate cases. The team member arrives to the location of the identified crisis. They make an assessment, and then they go into action to either de-escalate, assist, and support or address the current need. Or they may need to refer to partnering services as appropriate. We do have a behavioral health specialist that will follow up with case management to complete solutions that have been identified as needing more care or linkages to long-term care. Upon arriving to a dispatch-led activity, if the team member suspects weapons, criminal activity, or unresolved escalation, then we will notify APD and we'll just be on standby. If the police arrive to a dispatch scenario that, when assessed, may be best responded to by AQCRT team members, in which we would arrive to the scene and provide services as the police wait on standby. Police and AQCRT team members may accompany one another to a situation where the police may address moderate safety risks while AQCRT team respond to the constellation of family or provide services to the individuals directly involved in that service that's needed. All right, so what we have here is data from January through this month, June 2025. We've responded to approximately 2,422 dispatch calls, which 48 of those calls were APD accompaniments, 76 were EMT transports for 5150 or other medical needs, 1,017 of those were welfare checks, which can encompass a number of different situations. 235 were mental health related services, and 700 were relocations from private properties, businesses, or what was deemed a hazardous location. For the month of January, we had approximately 437 calls with a response time of 9.4 minutes. And February, there was 367 dispatch calls with a response time of 8.6 minutes. For the month of March, we had 421 calls with a response time of 8.4 minutes. For the month of April, there was 517 calls with a response time of 7.1 minutes. And then for the month of May, we were dispatched out to 482 calls with a response time of 7.9 minutes, with peak times normally Monday through Thursdays from approximately 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., Fridays 10 p.m. to approximately 1 p.m., Saturdays we get a lot of noise complaints, so normally our peak times are 6 p.m. to 4 a.m., and then Sundays approximately 1:30 to 6. In June this month, so far we've responded to approximately 201 calls with a response time of 9.2 minutes. And as you can see from the demographics, the majority of the calls that we respond to are males within the average age group of 30 to 49. Go ahead, Jay. The service call descriptions that we respond to are party and noise complaints, definitely on the weekends. Welfare checks, unwanted guests, trespassing, public nuisance, loitering, mental health response needs, initiated 5150s, medical response needs, disputes, fights, public health and safety concerns, uncontrolled youth, truant, juvenile services involving minors, services involving traffic, muni code violations, missing person, suspicious person, fire, ambulance information provided or partnership, vandalism, crime reported. We are in this together. Community members experience a mental health emergency or community concern are encouraged to call 911, and dispatch will coordinate our team to arrive to their aid. This was written by our chief, and He's writing to acknowledge the outstanding work the care team did responding to a welfare check in Antioch in October of 2024. Upon arrival, the team members quickly assessed the situation and recognized that something was wrong, promptly contacted dispatch to request law enforcement support. Their quick thinking and attention to detail led to the discovery of 2 deceased individuals at the scene and the subsequent arrest for this heinous crime. Their timely actions and careful handling of this sensitive situation was critical to swiftly resolving what could have been an overlooked or unsolved tragedy. We deeply appreciate the commitment and professionalism demonstrated by the team members, which contributed significantly to this outcome. So please extend our sincere thanks to these individuals for their exceptional work. And that was written to us by the chief. Thank you, Chief. We are the community, servicing the community. And thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thanks. Questions? Commissioner Mitchell, do you have questions?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Curious how many people are on call at a given time?
How many team members are working?
Yes.
So in a 24-hour shift, there's a team of 2. And so our schedules are like 5:30 to 2. There's 2 team members. And then there's administrative staff, myself, and the behavioral health specialist. We work day hours. We have a mid-shift, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Well, 1:30 to 10 p.m. And that's 2 members. So 6 members in the 24-hour period.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the demographics, just wanted to know, do you pull demographics on veterans, unhoused, people who are repeat users of the system, and undocumented?
So it's a little bit difficult sometimes for undocumented because people just don't come right out and say, you know. So we do unhoused, definitely, and veterans when they admit to being veterans. So we document any information that they give us.
So they have to volunteer it, it's not something that you're asking standardized?
We're not normally asking unless they're dealing with our behavioral health specialist.
So in terms of providing resources to them,
Yes.
if they could potentially be veterans, and there's some resources that you can direct them to if you're not asking that question.
So
how-
it depends on the situation.
Okay.
You know, if it's, sometimes my team does, it depends on what they go out for, because they go out for various different things. If a person is saying, I'm unhoused, then they would perhaps ask, are you a veteran? Because there are specific services for them.
Okay.
But when we're just out doing a welfare check or something like that, we're dealing with the crisis or the situation at the time. And unless it would warrant asking if they're a veteran, normally, no.
And my last question is, I did my sit-along, and I noticed that there was a person who called to be self-committed.
Yes.
I kind of want to understand your process when you come on scene. Do you have, like, what's the breakdown of the 2 people that are working? Are they both behavioral health
No.
professionals, or
So,
what's their credentials?
Most of our staff are community specialists.
Gotcha.
So we have one behavioral health specialist, and that's Mr. Belafonte, who's sitting there. And normally, if he's on duty, he will go out with the team to assess the situation, and then he normally leads.
Okay.
Yes. So, and if the team goes out and there's a 5150, unfortunately, we're not able to, you know, we have to call the police and then they'll come and,
And do the transport?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Kennedy?
Thank you so much. This was great. Just a couple of questions. So one of the things that I noticed is in looking at one of the reports that we got from PD a few meetings ago as far as call totals, it looks as if you are already, or well, you're just about 800 calls away in the middle of June for the total number of calls that you had last year for welfare checks,
Yes.
which is pretty staggering. Do you find that the welfare check calls are folks that would be repeat customers, for lack of a better way to put that?
Absolutely, and we do record those, so yes, we do get repeats quite often.
Okay, great. And then you talk about partnering with different community groups. Could you give us a sense of who some of those groups are, if those are groups here in town, or if those are groups with Contra Costa County?
So Family Service Agency is one of the groups that we partner with. We also partner with the Behavioral Health Services for Teens. I think I'm saying the name correctly, Behavioral Health Services for Teens, and the Contra Costa Behavioral Health Clinics. Those are some of the ones that I can think of off the top.
Thank you very much. And then, and I think you've already touched on this, so you may go out to a particular mental health call,
Yes,
and you will determine, or there will be some indication that that call is not simply just a mental health incident per se, but that would require a 5150, so that at that point, you then reach out to dispatch, make them aware that PD needs to respond, and they're the ones that then can initiate that. But that is not something that staff is able to do.
we're not in the county of Contra Costa. So,
Got it.
Unfortunately.
Because that
Yes.
was one of the reasons that I asked. And then one of the other questions it's not a question, but one of the things that I noticed in the report that we got at a previous meeting, again, which was a breakdown of APD calls and AQCRT calls, is that there was a reference to calls that were refused by the team. And one of the things that I think is important, and I don't get the sense that this is a refusal necessarily like, we're not going to go, but more, this is not a call that's appropriate for us, or you may get there and you might say, yeah, this is not for us. So I think one of the things that we should try to strive for from a standpoint all the way around is making sure that our phraseology and our terminology is going to be consistent. So rather than making reference to calls that are refused, I think maybe we should try to figure out a better way to qualify or quantify that, because I think it sends a distinctly different message to the community about the work, the very important work that you all do. And then
Do you remember what particular parts of the calls that were being refused?
that it was simply in,
I think Commissioner's referring to in the past before the team was fully staffed.
Yes,
At one point,
the
they-
Sycamore
exactly.
corridor.
Yes.
So part of that was safety in the Sycamore corridor.
and understood, and again, that my question and my suggestion is coming
Yes.
more from a position of making sure that we're using good, solid, consistent terminology, both as a commission, as a department, as a team,
Yes,
so that we're representing the work that's being done
yes.
accurately, and so that, so that someone's not looking at this and going, well, what do you mean refused?
Right.
Right, because
Absolutely.
it's all about perception at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
I can agree too, and I think that when we just had our recent dispatch meeting, that kind of briefly was touched on, and they were talking about shifting some of the language to make sure that it's more fitting and overall looks better for data, because
Absolutely.
that can be helpful to you guys
Yes.
for future funding for
Yes,
sure.
thank you.
And then one of the other things, and looking at the call volume is staggering. You had 482 calls in the month of May and 517 in the month of April. And again, just staggering. One of the things that I am curious about is what is it that impacts the response time? And obviously, it's a fairly it's not a huge difference, but, you know, we have 9.2 minutes, and we have 8.6 and 9.4. And then in the month of May, we're just moving right along at 7.8. So I'm just curious, is that based on location? Is it based
Absolutely.
on
Traffic, location.
traffic? Okay,
getting- yes.
all right.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I was wondering is where y'all fit into the missing persons equation.
So that would be a welfare check. We would probably be sent out on a welfare check. And once we got there, we would be told by the RP that XYZ hasn't been seen in so many days. We would then instruct them to file a missing persons report, and that's what happens. We code it as a missing persons.
Got it. But that would not involve you. I know there was a missing person that came in over the weekend that was put out, I think, by the Highway Patrol. So that would be how you would become involved. You would probably be the ones to say, hi, we met with this family, so-and-so has been missing, as opposed to then being involved in any sort of support role in finding somebody who was a missing person.
So we get those calls too. Somebody could be missing. They may have dementia or something like that, or an illness, and they're walking around, and we're asked to go out and given a certain area to look for this individual or individuals.
Okay, and that would be done by the two individuals
Correct.
that are on staff at that time?
Correct.
And I assume that under no circumstances do one of them go someplace without the other?
No, they have to go together.
Okay. Listen, thank you so very, very
You're so
much.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Quick question. So for relocations,
Yes.
where are you guys relocating folks to?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, when there is housing, of course, you know, we have to go through CORE. So we definitely utilize CORE. For those individuals that are interested in going into a program or are not just having to stay here locally, because a lot of times there's no space, there's nowhere to send them. So, you know, we have, San Francisco's a lot larger, they have a lot
Right.
more resources. So when people are willing to go other locations and they have beds available, then we utilize them.
Do we keep track of the data for where we're relocating?
Yes.
Great. And then in the demographics, is there race data?
Is that what?
Is there racial data?
Yes, it is. I just don't have it
Okay.
in there.
Can
But
we
yes. Next
email?
time?
I'll email you.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll get it
That
to
was
you.
my questions.
Okay.
Is there any public comment?
None received.
Any other discussion? Question? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Back to the refusal calls.
Yes.
Are there reports done when that situation occurs? The reason I ask is that if there are certain situations that become repetitive and so forth, may be able to feed data to dispatchers or what have you, if there's, you know, safety concerns or whatever the case may be, the data could be digested and help, you know, save time in a critical situation.
Absolutely. So I haven't been tracking refusals, but dispatch does.
Okay, so there would be, once dispatch has dispatched and there's a refusal, is there any kind of reporting on why?
That's a really good question.
It might be helpful
Well,
information.
you know, normally, so let me retract that and say, there have been a couple of instances since I have been the program director where my staff has come back and said, okay, we talked to dispatch and we didn't feel safe going, usually at graveyard, maybe at graveyard where they're supposed to be dispatched out somewhere where they're not feeling safe. There has been a few instances where that has taken place.
Yeah. Might be useful data if we
Absolutely.
kept track of that sort of stuff. Just to try to either minimize refusal or make sure your team's safe going somewhere.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, by the way.
I wasn't really clear with your answer regarding veterans, like she mentioned race, undocumented, and so on and so forth. You are keeping track of all of those categories?
We do
or-
have those categories in our system.
All right.
you.
Is there any way you can share that with us?
Yes, absolutely.
Same email.
Okay. Will do.
Sit.
Oh, of course, I want to say thank you so much again
you.
for doing this presentation. I think it's very honorable in the service that y'all provide. I've had to use it before, and that's not something I like to talk about fluidly. But the demographics, I want to look at this. Are you seeing a spike in any one demographic since this has become a thing, you know, especially around black males? You know.
So that's a good question.
Thank you.
And thank you. Recently, I have noticed an increase with our younger black males. Yeah, we've had quite a few calls. Mr. Belafonte is currently working with quite a few young black males and their families, because a lot of them are under the age of 18.
Mm.
And is that in like a particular part of town? Do you know, like?
What we do is we track zip codes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's both 94509 and 94531, but a lot in 94509.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
All right, I'm gonna have to step away. Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Just one other quick question, going to the demographic side of it. I know that, for example, in San Francisco, there's a significant LGBTQ youth population that has issues both with being unhoused and
Yes.
with a variety of other issues. And I know we're tracking primarily male, female. I do see that we have I think it's a 0.6% with other. But do we have, that we know of, issues among our LGBTQ youth or community in general here in Antioch that folks may or may not be aware of?
To my knowledge, we have a small population that utilizes our services. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
No particular demographic data kept specifically for community?
Yes, I will
Okay.
email that to you as
Thank
well.
you. Any other questions?
What about foster care youth?
Ooh, very good question. We always get calls with the group homes. And again, we are working with a few youth that are in the group homes.
And you guys are tracking that as well? Status, if you can include that. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Robust email, right? Yes. Just also want to just give y'all a shout out. I went to Monica's the other day with the Alameda County District Attorney.
Oh, I heard.
And
that.
as soon as I got out the car, they were like, Miss Taylor. Crisis team's there, right? It's like, I can't go anywhere in Antioch, right? But it was great to see them, and they were out in community doing their job. And it was, we always recognize the purple shirts. So always good work and good to see y'all out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. They
You're
did
welcome.
mention seeing you, of course.
They did. Yes. Our people. Yep. Okay, that's it for me. It for y'all? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Team, do y'all want to have a 5-minute recess before we start the DOJ? Okay, can we please have a 5-minute recess motion?
I move that we recess for 5 minutes and return at 7:18.
7:18? I'm like 7:18. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thanks. Can we have a vote?
Yes, thank you, Chair Taylor. Commissioner Mitchell? Commissioner Alaquachi? Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Williams? Chairperson Taylor?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously to recess at 7:14 p.m.
calling the Antioch Police Oversight Commission back to order at 7:20 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Taylor. Commissioner Mitchell,
Present.
Commissioner Alaquachi, Commissioner Kennedy,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Williams,
Present.
Chairperson Taylor.
Present.
We have a quorum with Commissioner Alaquachi absent at roll call.
Great. So we can go right back into agenda item 8, which is the overview of the Antioch settlement agreement with the Department of Justice.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I would say it's good to be back, but I'm not sure that I mean that, so. But if we could get the presentation up on the screen. My name is Brian Addington. I'm not Kevin Cunninger, and I am a executive consultant with the City of Antioch. I did serve as the interim police chief for the Antioch Police Department from February of 2024 through to about mid-January of 2025. And one of the roles that I was tasked with doing, along with the city manager and our city attorney's office and other members of the police department, was negotiating with the United States Department of Justice for a memorandum of agreement. Obviously, I think I'll move forward here, but my intent tonight here is to give you a high-level overview of the memorandum of agreement that the City of Antioch and the Antioch Police Department has entered into with the United States Department of Justice. The reason that we entered into this agreement is to ensure that members of the Antioch Police Department are well-trained, supported by strong policies and hiring practices, and part of a culture that recognizes an obligation to comply with state and federal law, and also reinforce our responsibility of all law enforcement officers to respect the civil rights of all individuals that they interact with.
Briefly, I'm sorry to interrupt, just want to acknowledge that Commissioner Alaquachi came in at 7:21 and is now present.
All right, thank you. So to give this a little bit more background and context, the parties of the agreement, as I indicated, are the Department of Justice, the City of Antioch, and then the Antioch Police Department. And the investigation stems from several former Antioch police officers who were federally indicted for multiple charges, including violating civil rights, as well as a subsequent text message scandal in which numerous text messages were publicly released indicating a systemic problem within the department. The authority for the United States Department of Justice to conduct this investigation comes from Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the Safe Streets Act. Basically, that says that any jurisdiction, like a city who receives federal funds, has to have strong anti-discrimination policies and practices, and if they are not living up to those, then the United States Department of Justice can come in and conduct an investigation. And so that ultimately is the authority that gave the United States Department of Justice reason to come in and conduct that investigation. The investigation actually commenced, I believe, in 2023, prior to me getting here. I would say probably mid to late summer of 2024 is when the United States DOJ asked us to, if we would be interested in voluntarily complying and drafting a memorandum of agreement. And upon consultation with city staff as well as the city council at that time, we agreed that it would be appropriate to enter into discussions. I think we all wanted the same thing. We wanted to have a well-trained police department free from any bias or discrimination. So we entered into that agreement, and ultimately the pattern and practice investigation ceased, and in January of 2025, with the authority of the city council, we signed a memorandum of agreement. And I would highlight that in the memorandum of agreement, it does ensure that the chief of police, who is now Joe Vigil, maintains overall authority and responsibility for running the police department. And it also has a strong component to ensure that the police department works to regain community trust. Next, I will read the actual purpose that is highlighted in the memorandum of agreement. I think this is on page 2 or 3, but it is intended to protect the rights of all members of the community, ensure the safety and security of all people in the city of Antioch, and ensure public confidence in the Antioch Police Department. Key definitions. This is, I think, spelled out on several different pages, but we have discriminatory policing, bias-based enforcement, protected characteristics to include race, color, national origin, sex, and religion, use of force with definitions and reportable thresholds, serious misconduct, which is actually defined by California state law. There's 9 categories where serious misconduct would fall under. And then it also highlights the role of the consultant, as well as APOC's kind of roles and responsibilities, which I'll discuss further as I proceed with my presentation. So the key policy areas that we focused on were non-discriminatory policing practices, use of force policies, including de-escalation and crisis management, recruitment and promotion processes, ensuring fairness and bias-free evaluation, background screening and disqualification criteria to make sure we were following best practices, data collection and analysis protocols to ensure that we have appropriate data, complaint intake, tracking, and investigation procedures for complaints against members of the department, ensuring that we have a language access procedures for limited English proficiency, community engagement, transparency and accountability strategies, supervisor and field training officer standards and conduct, as well as policies that ensure that all of our officers know that they do have a duty to intervene, they have a duty to report misconduct, and that we document our actions accurately. The consultant monitor requirements, and you will notice, I think throughout most of the document we refer to the individual as a consultant, but there is monitoring requirements, and the individual does have to report on a regular basis to the Department of Justice. So page 3 and 4 of this document just laid out the criteria. We wanted to have the monitor selected within 90 days. We did get this done. In fact, our monitor is here tonight, Mr. Manjeet Sapal. I'll probably have him come up at the end of my presentation just to have him introduce himself. We wanted to ensure that the monitor had law enforcement experience, some oversight experience, as well as experience relative to California. California is a very unique state. It has unique laws that govern policing. So we wanted somebody with that experience. Budgets are always difficult, so we also wanted to ensure some fiscal responsibility, and so we were able to agree on a maximum annual cost for the monitor, not to exceed $250,000. And the responsibility includes implementation guidance. One of the things that we noticed with some of the other agreements that were out there and consent decrees was that the monitor could approve or disapprove something, but if they didn't approve it, they wouldn't tell you why they approved it, and they didn't tell you which direction to go, which made it very difficult for other police departments. So we wanted to make sure that we had a monitor who could provide guidance and best practices to ensure that we're ahead of the game. Progress reporting, coordination, full access to our facilities and all of the processes, and then also to give in-person updates to the city council every 6 months. We felt that was very important in a public setting. So all of the terms of the monitors' roles and responsibilities are very clearly laid out, and I believe 9 bullet points in the agreement. I will talk a little bit about the selection process for the monitor as well. In conjunction with the Department of Justice, we submitted an RFQ, request for proposals, that was advertised nationwide on many different platforms over initially, I think it was a 30-day process. Towards the end, we hadn't received a lot of applicants, which isn't unusual. A lot of people wait till the very end. We were getting a little worried, so DOJ actually reached out to us and said, what do you think about extending it for 2 weeks? We were amenable to that, so we did extend it 2 weeks. At the end, we received 15 applications for individuals as well as companies to apply for the position. All of those were reviewed by a team at the Department of Justice, as well as a team inside the city of Antioch. We concurred on the top 6. From there, oral interviews were had. Every one of the top 6 applicants had to come in person. There were 3 attorneys from the U.S. Department of Justice, as well as Chief Vigil, Captain Bittner, and then Assistant City Attorney Kevin Cunninger. Those were the 6 voting members. They ranked all 6 of the applicants, and the top applicant was Mr. Sapal. And we presented that to City Council, and they had approved us entering into a consultant agreement for this services, which has been signed, and he has officially started his role. So that's the process. If you have any questions, again, we'll take some questions at the end. So next we have the non-discriminatory policing requirements. APT is to ensure we have fair, respectful, and unbiased policing, a prohibition of selective enforcement, clear policies, training, and supervisory direction. You will see this theme throughout this entire document, and it is reiterated in multiple aspects of everything that we do, from hiring, from policies, promotions, community engagement, all of that. Updates and directives. There were key policies, use of force, bias-based policing, that they wanted us to review and update. Prior to the agreement, we had already started a practice with APOC in which we review policies. We did want to wait until the consultant was hired until we started doing the more robust policies like use of force and the bias-based policing. But I was at the last subcommittee meeting, and as well as the monitor was there, and I know we're well underway now with reviewing the use of force policies. And we got some outstanding recommendations from members of APOC as well as from our monitor. So that is a work in progress. The goal is to get these key policies reviewed within 180 days of the consultant starting. And once they are all updated within another 180 days, and everything that gets reviewed and approved by the police chief and city manager still has to go to DOJ for their final sign-off, and then we would implement it, and we have 180 days, I think, to get that implemented after they are updated. And again, it has to be in a format approved by the Department of Justice. Training on non-discriminatory policing. We have to do the initial training within 180 days of the policy approval. We're in the process of doing that right now. A maximum of 16 hours. It also does require active participation. This means that they're not going to allow just, online or watch a video type thing. It's got to be in person. Because staffing levels are still low right now, there was an exemption to this for the first little while, but within a year, I believe it is, we do have to have, robust in-person 16 hours of training. The topics have to include racial profiling, bias, ethical decision-making, de-escalation, cultural sensitivity, and then annual interim virtual training until we're fully staffed and we get this fully implemented. And then our new officers that are hired, I believe, also have to go through this virtual training within just a few months of starting as well. So APOC. APOC obviously was formed by a council resolution back in 2022. The DOJ recognizes that was the city council's authority that formed APOC. Nothing has changed with that, but they did want to ensure that at least 5 of the 7 members serve for a term of at least 2 years for overall continuity. They also wanted to ensure, I think it's spelled out very well in the agreement, that all of the APOC members have the resources that they need to do their job, including training, and that they have full capacity for appropriate oversight. And then one of the goals was or requirements was to have the APOC training plan developed in consultation with the monitor, and then to ensure that you are also receiving NACOL training, the National Organization for Civilian Law Enforcement Oversight. So, and I think as I think we talked a little bit about the budget, but there's already budgets to ensure that you're able to receive that training. Recruitment and promotions. This was covered in a couple pages, but wanting to make sure that, one, we do have a robust recruitment plan. We have to have that within 180 days of the consultant starting, that we have a thorough background screening process, particularly for bias and fairness. And then within 240 days, we have to review our overall promotion procedures and practices, and we have to have clear criteria for promotions, ensuring integrity, de-escalation, community engagement, education, innovative work. You may not have noticed it, but we actually took our job descriptions for all of our supervisors to council with updated job description, which is now matches the requirements that we expect pursuant to this agreement. So, disqualifying criteria for hiring and promotions. We have to make sure we have clear, robust policies on that, including for conflict of interest, that we're taking into account prior discipline, that people aren't promoting with serious misconduct pending investigations, that those investigations are complete before any decisions are made, and then disclosure of disqualifying concerns to ensure fairness and integrity in the process. So we also don't want people that have pending misconduct allegations to serve as reviewers for other people who may be in the promotional process. So I think as Lieutenant Cook mentioned during his presentation, it has become customary now that we actually hire an outside consultant to come in and do the recruitment process, and the individuals that rate the officers are from outside of the police department as well, and then we get a list together from HR, and that's given to the chief. Data collection and analysis. We have 180 days to develop an accurate demographic data collection protocols, in which we document stops, searches, uses of force, canine deployments, mental health calls, and complaints. And then the quarterly data analysis, looking for disparities, and then data to be secured as well. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in some of the additional hires that were mentioned. Complaints and misconduct investigations, again, making sure that our process is aligned with our policies and best practices, that all of our officers know that they have a duty to report misconduct, and failure to do so will result in disciplinary action. And then our database for tracking misconduct and complaints has to be robust, it has to be electronic, it has to be searchable, so that we can have good information. All complaints, even if it's informal, are to be investigated, and that we have supervisors and our internal affairs bureau standards that are outlined. And this review of staffing in this unit has to be completed within 180 days of the consultant starting. It also does require external investigators, so meaning professional investigators that are not members of the police department for sensitive complaints, also ensuring that members of the same union are not investigating each other. And then all reports are reviewed by the chief, the city manager, and the city attorney. And then that we also report to this commission, this body, on an annual basis with the aggregate number of complaints and what, if any, discipline action was taken. So, then the language access plan, again, this has to be developed within 180 days of the consultant starting, and this requires the plan that has procedures for identifying languages that we need to ensure that our officers, if they come in contact with individuals who don't speak English, that they have the ability to communicate with them effectively, whether that's through bilingual personnel or other translation type services. And then an annual review to adopt our community language needs. So once we develop the plan, then it has to be reviewed and updated annually to make sure that we're meeting our requirements with this. Community engagement, again, we have a lot to do in 180 days from the time the consultant started, if you see, but develop in conjunction with APOC as well as Department of Justice a robust community engagement plan, which includes community meetings, community outreach, social media, public data reporting. It also includes having a community liaison officer specifically assigned within 2 years of the agreement, and that that individual, if possible, is bilingual. We cannot require that. That would be against both state and federal law, but we can indicate that that is a strongly desired characteristic. Compliance and monitoring. So there is 3 levels that the monitor will have to determine. One is non-compliance, meaning we have not come into compliance with one of the terms. Partial compliance means we have started it but has not been completed yet. And then substantial compliance, which means that we have substantially met all of the intent and compliant components for the item. And then that we will also be creating a professional standards division that'll be established. It's professional standards and compliance division, and the intent of that is to have it established by July 1st. That will include a captain, as well as a sergeant, eventually the community liaison officer, as well as the data analyst, and then also a member from the city attorney's office. The police department does have to provide biannual self-assessment reports to the Department of Justice with detailed data and corrective action. So every 6 months, the department has to write that and submit it through the monitor. So new positions, and it says created by July 1. That's when the budget is officially in place. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the new person is going to be in the role on that date of July 1, but that we are in the process of creating it. So prior to this agreement, the department had 2 captains. The city had to put in funding for a 3rd captain to oversee this new division or bureau of compliance. And then the sergeant, the officer, which I talked about, the data and statistical policy analyst. You remember there was a section on data, so we have to have an analyst specifically assigned to this division to ensure compliance with all the data collection that we have to do. And we're working on reviewing our current analyst to determine if that meets those qualifications or if we're going to have to do an entirely new analyst job classification with the specific requirements, because I do think it's probably going to be more in-depth than just a standard administrative analyst. And then it did also call for the city to have an additional assistant city attorney, so that one city attorney could be assigned specifically to work with the police department to ensure that we are working towards substantial compliance on all of these terms. So termination of the agreement. The agreement ends when DOJ confirms that we've been in substantial compliance for at least 2 years. So the way it's set up is roughly, ideally, a year to get into compliance, and then we would have to do a minimum of 2 years in compliance. And the earliest that we could get out of the agreement would be 3 years. There is a maximum term of 5 years because we know things come up. Not everything goes perfectly. Like we mentioned with the monitor, that had to be extended a little bit. So there is a maximum term of 5 years. But overall, I think this gives us a good window to get this developed. We have seen, even in California, areas where people are, or departments are in agreements and they've gone, 19, 20 years and still have not gotten compliance. We wanted to try and avoid that. So DOJ had agreed to this. And if APD fails to comply, DOJ can take legal action to compel APD to comply. They can file a federal lawsuit to enforce the agreement. And the City of Antioch and APD's failure to comply may result in extended federal oversight and potential sanctions as well. So there is, I think, some teeth, but I think it's very clear by the City Council's direction to enter into this agreement that that is not the direction. The direction is to ensure that the police department meets and exceeds every one of these expectations. I think I heard it said, and I think it really kind of describes it. This is kind of the city's insurance plan to make sure that we get our department to where it needs to be. So kind of key takeaways, strong emphasis on civil right compliance, clear timelines and measurable goals, community engagement and accountability, ongoing monitoring and adjustments as needed. And that does conclude my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions that you have, but probably before we do that, I would like to invite our monitor, Mr. Manjeet Sapal, to come up to introduce himself and kind of a little bit about his background and his communication with DOJ.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, City Manager, and Retired Chief. I'm really honored to have been selected for this role. And I'll tell you, just last week we had a policy meeting. We were talking about uses of force, and I think one of the things that I walked away with was the discussion was very candid and open, and there was this genuine desire, I think, by everybody to want to push the needle and move forward. I think that's going to be an absolute critical piece to this. I'm going to rely very heavily on APOC. A big piece of this is going to be assessing the organization, and it's really making connections within the community. And it's going to be very important that I can link up with community groups, get a better understanding of what the community wants and what they see. When we look at policies, training, all of the guidelines, I think the Chief put it in a perfect way. It's about culture. It's not just one thing. It's about implementing a variety of different mechanisms in order to change that culture and to build on that culture. And so as we move forward, we're not going to go backwards, we're not going to step backward and keep pushing forward. And the organization really should serve as a model, in my opinion, for what other agencies should do. I think it's fantastic that the city has put the resources together to make this work. I think it's very challenging when you have mandates and they don't fund them, you don't provide resources, it makes it very difficult. So I think the city is in a very, very good position to do that. Like I said, I'm super excited about this. I have about 25 years in policing. I started my career in Pittsburgh as a young officer in 1995. I went to Richmond after about 2 years, and I was there for 18 years. I left there as a captain. When I came to this country, I lived in Richmond, and that was my community, that was my home from the time I went to elementary school to high school. And it was a special thing to be able to serve that community. And then I went to Martinez as the police chief, where I was there for 6 years. So I have a fairly broad background in a lot of different areas. I think the one thing that I will stress is whenever we make changes and we're looking forward, there's two very important lenses we have to think about. One is community, because all these policies and all these changes, we have to remember that they impact the community and how that's going to be perceived. So I think it's extremely critical. There's no reason why someone shouldn't be able to go to a website or a manual and be able to really digest and understand what we're trying to do. There shouldn't be any secret here. And sometimes I think we lose something in that translation, so it's very important. The second is equity. We gotta make sure that everything we do is done through this lens of equity, and we're accounting for everyone in our community. I can look through these policy manuals, and I have the luxury of having worked at a college campus for a short period of time, where these are very, very important issues, and they're discussed in a very academic way, and there's a lot of opinions and free speech, but you walk away with this very deep, profound respect for differing viewpoints, and that's something that we have to account for. I think when a police department, any organization that serves the public can do these things, it's going to evolve into a much better outcome. So that's essentially all I have to share. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm looking forward to working with each of you. Before I leave today, I will give all of you a business card. I really want to make sure that you have me in my favorite 5 for the phone calls, because we need to really stay connected, and I need to ensure that I have a good finger on the pulse of the community. That's going to be absolutely critical, because that is going to drive how quickly we can move forward, and we have a lot of work to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Devin likes to clap, as we can see. Any discussion or questions from you, Commissioner?
Are there rules for communicating with Mr. Paul? Is there a proper way? Should we address as a commission as a whole? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Alaquachi? Commissioner Williams?
So I have a question about the after the DOJ agreement expires, what is expected from our police department? Are we going to have a relationship with the DOJ just for further oversight. I mean, we have the commission, right? But we want to make sure that the agreement still stands as it is now. But we don't want to revert back to, you know, what the heck was going on back then. And if you could step to the mic, just for people watching. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probably the best way to phrase this is we want to meet all the requirements of the agreement, and then at some point the organization is going to do a self-assessment. So they'll still have to report to DOJ, and you know DOJ is going to continue to monitor what's going on, whether the agreement is in place or not, because we want to ensure that we're not stepping back. So I think there's some mechanisms built in. I think the other piece to this is one of the unique aspects to this is I'm not just here to provide oversight and check a box to talk about compliance. A big piece of this is having those collaborative conversations with the community and with the organization to try to make sure we're doing this in a way that leverages different viewpoints and different experience so we can move forward. And the important part to that is, again, it shifts the culture, right? 5 years from now, the officers that are coming up through the ranks, this should be second nature to them. This is how they should be viewing the world and thinking, right? It should not be a foreign concept. And so I think to your point, a part of this is when you make those systemic changes in hiring, in promotions, in discipline, in how you recruit folks, how they engage with the community, then you're not going to slip back. And like I said, I think the challenge here is really to set the benchmark. It's to be what our agencies should be.
Could I add on to that as
Thank you,
well?
Manjeet. Oh, please.
Yeah, I did want to make sure that everyone knows as well. We do, the California Department of Justice also launched a pattern and practice investigation about the same time. That investigation is still ongoing. So we do not know where that will end up. And then we also had several lawsuits that were filed and combined into one lawsuit. And that is still underway. And there is discussion about some additional terms that could potentially be either added to this one or a separate agreement as well. So there are still two, for lack of better terms, investigations out there. The DOJ one is now settled, but we have other entities that we're still working with that may, we don't know where those are going to fall. Those could fall under federal court oversight. They could fall under state court oversight as well. So it's too early to tell, but there are two other entities, I guess, investigating and negotiating with us right now. California Department of Justice, as well as a federal civil rights lawsuit in which this has come up. If you remember with Oakland's consent decree actually came from a federal lawsuit, and a federal judge oversees that.
Thank you both. I did have a follow-up to that. So I know we talked about this before, and it came at the last meeting while I think it was Commissioner Kennedy that had the question about DOJ, the current administration, federal government, right? They're trying to cut back and roll back all these like progressive ideas. Maybe Commissioner Kennedy could phrase it better than I am, but is there going to be some overreach from the federal government to the state DOJ to where there's no monitoring of our local agreements right now? Does that make sense to anybody? I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah. I know that the question is like kind of up in the air, but I'm just really trying to, you know, look out for like what the heck we couldn't expect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk. One, we did have a conversation with US DOJ. If you follow, there were some consent decrees that they were ordered to get out of. Ours was not one of them. Ours was one that they were going to proceed with. And we have an attorney from the United States Department of Justice, Northern California District, who's been assigned to be the attorney who's overseeing ours. But even if it were to go away, which I don't think it's going to go away, nothing is going to change. I think our intent is to continue with ensuring over the next 3 to 5 years that we come into full compliance with the terms that we negotiated with US DOJ. Yep.
So just to clarify, I know that throughout the presentation and in the agreement, it talks about we have a lot of 180 days. So there was the 180 days from, I guess, when the agreement was signed to hiring Mr. Sapal. And then now there's the next 180-day clock has started based on his start date, correct?
So there's multiple, and Mr. Sapal has this all outlined. We had 90 days, we wanted 90 days to select the consultant. I think we were 40 days behind. Some of the 180 days and 240 days are based on the signing of the agreement. Others are based on when the consultant started. So we have a very specific timeline that Mr. Sapal has put together for us to ensure that we get those done. Now, we do have a year, maybe even longer. So I'm not going to say every single one of these is going to get done. Let's say the particular policies. I mean, we're meeting once a week, but if we don't get that done, but we're showing that we're making very diligent effort, then I think we're probably going to need to go to DOJ and say it may take another week or a month. We don't want to rush this. We want to do it right, and we want to do it right the first time. Anything that we think is going to go over, obviously, we want to make sure we talk to our consultant, that he understands the reasoning, reports to the Department of Justice, and make sure that they understand and agree with it. But I think that's, yes, there are measurable dates that we want to strive, but I don't think that overrides doing it right. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I was just kind of trying to gauge which 180 days
Sure.
falls where.
Yeah,
And
it
then-
should be spelled out in the actual agreement. It'll say 180 days from the hiring of the consultant. If it doesn't
Got it.
say that, then it's from the date of the signing.
And
Really
then
quick-
just go
quick,
back.
Commissioner, 1 second, and you can continue. What is your hire date?
That's a darn good question. I don't remember the exact date we signed the agreement.
Yeah, I have the agreement. I can look it up as we're.
You were,
as we're here.
I was like,
It's been about 30 days, roughly.
okay,
Been about 30 days.
30 days.
And then going back to Vice Chair Williams' reference, one of the other things that is a bit concerning, aside from the shifts and changes based on who's under a consent decree, who's not, et cetera, but also the ongoing executive orders that come out. One that was of particular concern to me was Executive Order 14168, which is tied into the reference of gender, and whether or not that is going to have an impact on members of the LGBT community. And I was told that we were covered by California law in that particular category. However, based on, I think, what we continue to see on a day-to-day basis, there is no guarantee that there will not be lawsuits back and forth. And it has been pretty evident that California at this point is being targeted, as well as other states, in certain arenas. So that's going to be something that I will probably continue to bring forward.
I think from my perspective, what I can do is I do have regular conversations with the U.S. Attorney that signed this agreement, and so I can make sure I check in and sort of get a feel for where things are. The agreement's been signed. We've already committed to the Department of Justice what we're going to do, what we're going to achieve, and that's not going to change. That agreement is not going to change.
And I understand that, but in red letters at the top of the website now, it does make specific reference to a disclaimer regarding Executive Order 14168.
Can I wait? So yes, when the new administration came in, that executive order was signed. DOJ did reach out to us, and we did change some terms where I think it was gender identity is replaced with the word sex throughout the agreement. So that's what the agreement says. We still have to follow California law, which is different than that. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm clear about that
Yes.
part. Again, my concern is I'm not convinced that there will not continue to be fights over that, which I realize we have no control over.
Right. And then to add, May 28th was Mr. Sapal's official start date. That's when the contract was signed.
Is that all for you, Commissioner? Yes? Okay. For the annual report that is due to come out for the DOJ agreement, we as a commission also have the responsibility of submitting an annual report to City Council. Is there any way that we can discuss the scheduling of that to be like October-ish so that we can do our report after we receive that report? Who's responsible for drafting that report to present to us?
Who's responsible for
I'm sorry?
DOJ's, which report are you talking
So
about? I'm sorry.
in the presentation that you just went over, it says that there should be a report submitted to us annually. And I'm asking who's responsible for submitting that report to us and if we can discuss scheduling it.
So I think you're talking about the self-reporting piece, or is it the, so I will be providing a report every 180 days at City Council. I don't have any issue with providing regular updates at these meetings. I plan to be at these meetings on a regular basis, and so I can provide some insight into terms of where we are and where we're moving.
On the external investigations page, it says annual reports to Antioch Police Oversight.
Yes, so, and I believe, I know I did it once when I was on the police oversight,
Correct.
and then I believe Chief Vehill's done it once, but at least annually, and I think the goal would be to do it quarterly, but at least annually, that the police department, not the monitor, come in and provide the aggregate data for you. I would recommend that be probably in March or April, so we could do it on an annual, all of 2025 data.
So next year.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so essentially this is talking about the complaints that we're already going over quarterly anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we should keep it on the path that we have it on quarterly versus this.
That would be up to, I guess, we're required to do it annually. I don't think there's anything that would preclude us from doing it quarterly, and you probably would, that would be up to you.
We probably would prefer, would you guys prefer to continue quarterly
Yes.
versus annually? Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. That was
We should
that
probably get a
question.
consensus then, if
And
that's the question. Chair, we should probably get a consensus. I said yes.
it was already voted on
Oh, okay.
a long
yeah,
time
okay,
ago,
Okay,
but I'm just making sure because it says annually here, but it was voted on a long time ago, so
okay.
we should continue with quarterly. Check the minutes. I'm not making this up. Okay, that was it for my questions. Are there any other questions?
I did,
Mm.
oh, sorry. I did have one more. When it comes to the training of the officers that is required to meet the standards, so all of this training is supplemental to what they have already received as part of post? Or is any of this part of post training? Or is it above and beyond?
It is in addition to, yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you, Manjeet. Of course, once again, very important presence to have here. So I want you to meet people that are here and then other community members who couldn't be here tonight. I'm sure they want to talk to you about things. I see Cassandra Quinto Collins in the audience here. I see Frank Sterling. Very, very strong members of our community who have advocated for change, and this is why we're here. This is an honor to be here in service to them. So I just want you to acknowledge them while we're here. So thank you. That's it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was my understanding, trying to get through this agreement, that there's going to be, or supposed to be, an implementation schedule put together.
Correct.
And will that be shared with us?
Absolutely. In fact, that's already been done, so I can send that out.
Okay, that'd be appreciated. Okay, and then, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but there's supposed to be an ordinance revision that we're in the midst of?
Correct, not appropriate time, but we
Okay.
can bring it up later.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any others? All good? Yes, firecracker in the room for Lexapol. We so appreciate you, and we know that we're in great hands. So thank you so
We're going
much.
to use this as a team, so it'll be great.
Thank you. Mhm. Public comment?
I received one public comment from Frank Sterling.
All right, y'all. How y'all doing? Sorry, I'm in my flip flops. I didn't do my due diligence and check the agenda tonight, so I was at home cooking. But I put it all on hold to come down. One thing, real quick, I'll say with your report out with AI right now, you could probably just submit the English one and get it bilingual immediately. So that should be pretty easy. I feel sad that we have to have like an oversight thing to have people report bad and illegal behavior, but that's where we're at. So I hope that that happens. I feel like what we need is the real, I guess it's the oversight to make sure that all the rules and regulations are being followed. So I hope that that can continue. And my group, Reimagine Antioch, and the police group, that oversight group that I work with there, has been going through all the ones that have been passed since 2020 when we had the big push to do reforms. So I'm still trying to bring those to you. It's been a minute since I've worked on them. So I just hope that we could have that oversight, because we have all these regulations that just seemed in the past to get overlooked and no one was watching. So we just need to keep an eye on that. I was going to start off with talking about that. I wish this could have happened a long time ago. I remember standing up here, and I think it was 2011, kind of shaking in my boots when we almost had oversight, but the whole crowd, it was full house, was against it, and I was one person speaking for it. And people were cheering when they talked about handcuffing the police and not letting them do their job. And the crowd was going crazy, and then I spoke that we need oversight, because I had already just got my ass handed to me by a couple of rogue officers, and it was crickets in here. So I'm so glad it's happening now. That's what I wanted to start it with. I feel like it's going to be tough for certain reasons. The APOA, certain letters that they have written, we still have them. Cassandra knows a letter they wrote specifically about their family. They've wrote terrible letters about activists in the community. I feel they're going to be a real problem to deal with. And the one president at the time when all this scandal happened was the one guy that kicked me in the face and called me all these names back in 2009. Throughout that time, from 2009 to the text message scandal, he became the president of the APOA. So his name's Rick Hoffman, and if he's still floating around in the department, especially if he's in any sort of leadership role, I feel like it's going to be tough cookies to try to get anything serious if he's making decisions about it. I guess I'll leave it at that. I came a little bit late. I'll make a general public comment later, but good news from, I don't know what to call you anymore, Chief Addington, but Chief Addington, about the concerns about the federal administration, the changes there, and the squashing of the oversight and the dissent decrees. So thank you for saying that it will continue. Like you, I'm concerned that it just may not happen, but we'll have to see where it goes. It's stuff that we can't predict. All right, I'll see you in a couple minutes. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
None received.
Don't go too far, Frank. Next agenda item. Public comment.
I received one public comment from Frank Sterling.
All right, right back. Again, thank you. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late tonight. I started dinner and I had to put it all on hold to come down, but I want to definitely respond to the Angelo Quinto community response team. It's something that I feel is very valuable, and thank you for the presentation. I was watching from home while I was chopping and dicing, and then I realized I need to get down here and say that that's something so important here, and someone here, me, that spoke out many times about it. And as far as I understand it, Chief Addington in the past, Chief Behill, everybody's been very supportive of it. So I hope that it can continue. I'm glad it's here. I've personally utilized it. And to tell you the truth, in the situation I was in, I was terrified to call the police because of, history of things that happened. So when I finally got through it, it was a challenge, to tell you the truth, to kind of get to the crisis response team. I wouldn't say have an argument, but maybe a kind of a debate, whether it was the crisis response team I needed or the police. But the crisis response team came in the end, and it was a good result and a good outcome. So I'm really glad they're here. I hope we can continue to fund it. I know it's questionable right now. I haven't been following as closely as I'd like, but I hope you all can speak out for it, and the chief and anybody else that that has seen the value of it. Just please speak out and let the elected officials know that we need to fund that if we can. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
None received.
Great. Just want to highlight, in our last annual report, we definitely did a recommendation for the crisis team to continue to be funded. And so we definitely, as a body, submitted that we support. So. And then if we move on to agenda item 10, we have ad hoc committee report outs. And I will definitely pass that over to either Commissioner Alakwachi.
Okay, Manjeet spoke about it a little bit when he gave his presentation on what we discussed. We were looking at policy 300, and I think we got quite a bit done, but we're still not done with it. There's a lot of work on that. So I'm not gonna go further than that, what he's already mentioned, but I can tell you that we did bring up the issue of the Supreme Court ruling regarding Barnes versus Felix. And I'm just going to read here, which clarified that courts must consider the totality of the circumstances when assessing the reasonableness of a police officer's use of force rather than focusing solely on the moment of threat. And he clarified for us that there's no change for APD. This has always been the practice in California. This probably had more impact in some other areas, maybe in Texas or some other state, but it doesn't change how we do business here in the state or in Antioch PD. So I just wanted to bring that up. He clarified that for us. So we're going to be going back this week to talk more about 300. We have several other policies that we're going to be dealing with, but that one is taking a big bite of our time. So we'll keep you guys posted.
Thank you. And want to go back to what Consultant Addington said in regards to like taking it slow, right? We want to do it right the first time. And so very hardworking group. And do you?
Yeah, I did want to add to our policy working group, which is every Thursday. Lieutenant, is it Lieutenant Cook? Okay. Thank you for showing up when you can. Angie, happy to have you. But we are working on policy. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, the commission is working, but behind the scenes, nobody sees what we do, but there are things happening. And so we're rewriting our best practices for the city of Antioch, going off of state and federal laws, what's legal. And it takes a group effort, and I want to appreciate Commissioner Alakwachi for coming on and stepping right in there to do the work. And Chair Taylor and I have been working every week to do the things that you have just picked up in the. So I just want to say thank you to that. And I look forward to working with making the city better. So thank you.
Another firecracker. And then just shout out to y'all. We finally have ad hoc. So
You're right.
Look, I'm super excited to move forward with some work. Is there any public comment?
None received.
Thank you. Future agenda items. I want to make sure we get this out of the way since we did form our new ad hocs. When we come back, I would like to discuss finalizing the descriptions. So description, purpose, responsibilities for each ad hoc. And then I'll open that up for you all to continue first, and then I'll add any other suggestions that I have. We can start.
Just some things that occurred over the last week. We had graduations occur and got involved in the safety of traffic and pedestrians on that. And it was a great day. You know, it was no negative events that I was aware of. People were safe. A lot of congratulations handed out to all the students that were passing by and so forth. So it was a really fun day. Also worked the cleanup at City Park. We should really try to pass along some things to Public Works because there's some pretty disgusting areas of the park that need like biohazard help. There's a mechanical shed right off the playground that's being used for bad things. So we did clean up, did encounter a few folks that were unhoused. No incidents by any means, just maybe a mention to try to keep the place clean. And so that moved forward on that. And then Thursday attended the Neighborhood Watch meeting.
I don't want to interrupt. It sounds like you're doing your like report out.
Oh, I'm sorry,
So,
that's where we
no,
were.
we are talking future agenda items.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that you covered it. I think our major goal is to gonna get the ad hocs up
Okay.
and going and described, and definitely set goals because the time is limited on when reports have to happen. So we're gonna have to really bear down and, you know, agendize the due dates and all those things. So receiving the schedule will be, you know, will be really important.
Absolutely. And I want to highlight, you brought up earlier the ordinance.
Yes.
And so I also want to agendize that. I think that we all should be prepared to discuss our recommendations for what the ordinance would look like in the future after it's amended. And so we can submit that to the city, and then they can continue with their drafting.
Yeah,
And
there's
that was-
a lot of subjects. I didn't know where it was at.
This is it right
So,
here.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Alaquachi? Good.
So just a point of clarification, do we want to have ad hocs with drafts by the meeting on July 7th
That is
for purpose and so on?
That's correct. So I can reach out to commissioners individually. My goal, or what I would suggest, and you guys can figure this out on your own, is to kind of assign like someone to take a lead role in each ad hoc, a note taker, and that can rotate. And then I can assist with the responsibilities, just because I feel like it should be even among all the ad hocs. So like, for instance, sharing a SharePoint, how the notes are reflected, the attendance, so it's kind of templated. And so I can take on that task, but the you guys actually scheduling your own meeting times, I'm not gonna be involved in that. That is gonna be a thing for y'all, right? And so hopefully by the next meeting, you all have come together and met at least once, discussed roles, what you guys are gonna be doing, plans, and then ready to present that for the next meeting. Thanks. And then REACH, hopefully, we discussed wanting to hear from REACH, so I did send an email to them, so I'll follow up and see if we can get them to present anything that you guys specifically would like, want to request from APD, presentation-wise. Think they'll have 5 more officers in 2 weeks? Probably not, yeah.
Maybe this is not for this meeting, but I did want to get a status report on like how the new officers are. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
All the new officers that we have seen in the last year. So I'm so grateful for them, and I just want to make sure like how is it working out for them basically? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
So something like the retaining of the new officers, or any kind of write-ups, anything?
Retainment was the word. Yes.
Yes,
Thank
okay.
you. Are we
New
are
hire
we Antioch
update,
strong?
right?
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, so right now I have that we will come back with our ad hocs, purpose, description, responsibilities, our ordinance, recommendations as a discussion. Hopefully, we can get a REACH presentation, and A, update from APD on our hires, our recent hires, yeah. Mhm.
We did make a request for their overtime budget for the first quarter, comparing it from last year to this year, because they said that because they're bringing on more, officers, that they've rejiggered their schedules so they don't use overtime as much. So it would be so good to be able to show and see what that budget looks like from one year to the next.
We can submit that out in an email, but now that we have a fiscal management ad hoc, that would be
On there.
for their review. We can submit it to everyone,
Mhm.
but that's who that will go to.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay, so is there any other requests? Good? All right. And did I do public comment? Is there any public comment on this?
None received.
Cool. So we can move on, and now, Commissioner Mitchell, you were reporting out, so.
Mike, please.
Geez, I'm a mess tonight. Just how important the Neighborhood Watch program, I think the police department's done a nice job organizing, and there's a lot of written information available, and I think it's gonna really impact the safety of the city, and getting to know neighbors knowing each other, and that'll all translate into a safer city. So really looking forward to that getting really rolling. So that's what I've got.
Well, I also attended the Neighborhood Watch meeting. It was great, I think, to see this relaunched, if you will. And I think that it provides another great community engagement tool. National Night Out is coming up in August. That's a great way for, neighbors to get to know each other more, the officers to come out. It's my understanding that they've got a grant program available for up to 25 different events. They've, I think, had 8 of those that have been claimed. So that was really incredibly positive. I did a sit-along and dispatch, which was incredibly interesting. And then today, I did a ride-along, which was also very interesting. I was very impressed with what I saw, the way the officers engaged with each other, the work that they did on the calls that I was on. I got to see them use one of the drones, realizing the importance, role that plays in both the safety of the community and the safety of the officers. The other thing that I wanted to acknowledge the department was what I felt was a proactive approach to last Saturday's call to action that happened not just here in Antioch but around the country. I thought that they did a very nice job via social media of making the community aware that this action was going to be taking place, the route that the protesters were going to take from point A to point B. And so I think that is a move in the right direction, acknowledging that this was a First Amendment activity, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, again, that's a plus. The other thing that I want to just acknowledge is that in addition to this Thursday being Juneteenth, this also happens to be Pride Month. And I know that there was the unfortunate incident here with the sign being cut or vandalized at near Williamson Ranch Park. I also saw on Newsbreak on my way down here tonight that there was a pride banner at the Church of the Resurrection in Pleasant Hill that was vandalized today. And I think that this is just a reminder, I think, for all of us that we are living in an incredibly volatile environment. Okay, I mean, you can get up every morning and go to bed every night with some sort of controversy, some sort of antagonism. you know, and then you layer onto that the assassinations and the attempted assassinations in Minnesota over the weekend. And I think it's just a reminder to all of us that we all have to work together to coexist as peacefully as we possibly can. There is a role that law enforcement plays in that, but we all play a role in making sure that we take care of each other. So just thank you. The Lieutenant Cook actually got my ride-along set up. I appreciate that. Mr. Sapal, looking forward to working with you. And just thank you to everybody who has an ongoing commitment to try to make this work and to make this better.
Told you Commissioner Williams likes to clap.
When I feel motivated, yes.
Very well said. I don't have anything. Is there any public comment?
None received.
All right. Staff communications? None. Okay, next meeting date is June 16th, 2025 at 6:30. Oh, it's a typo, and I'm just reading, you know? I don't have a calendar in front of me. July 7th, right. July 7th at 6:30 p.m. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
There we go.
Can we have a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Commissioner Mitchell? Yes. Commissioner Alaquachi? Yes. Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Williams?
Yes.
Chairperson Taylor?
Yes.
The motion passes to adjourn at 8:26 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.